Hello and welcome back to the Pitch Side podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast and all the other content on the channel. Listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts or any other platform. And follow us on social media. I'm at Side PSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. Join us here for episode 144 and another Champions League review edition. You're welcome. But before any Champions League preview of the sorts, let's get into a Monday night football and what happened, of course, yesterday across Europe. Of course, the focus is going to be on La Liga. I think the most important game of them all is Sevilla vs Athletic Bilbao, and Sevilla managed to shoot themselves in the foot in the worst way possible. They had the whole game to dominate against Athletic Bilbao at the Ramon Sánchez Pizjuán, but the only goal from Inaki Williams in the 90th minute meant that Sevilla are not going to be involved in the title race directly, really. They're pretty much, their hopes are dead and buried at the moment. Of course, the pressure was on them after the Real Madrid, Barcelona and Atletico all won on the weekend, and Sevilla needed desperately the win to keep up with the title race. Of course, the only good thing that could come out of this is the fact that they are pretty secured in their fourth spot, so they won't be dropping anytime soon outside the top four. But definitely, it hurts when you see a little bit of title dreams being dashed in the last minute. Let's be fair. Until 2 or 3 weeks ago, we won't be talking about Sevilla as a title contender in La Liga. We're just talking about them as a good team, Champions League place team. They're really sort of convinced with where they are in the totem pole and really just staying safe and secure in fourth spot. But definitely, for the last 3 weeks or so, everybody was talking about them as the title contenders, on the outsiders to win La Liga. But definitely, with this loss now, maybe that is, over. That dream is over for them. Of course, a big weekend awaits. Of course, on Sunday they will face Real Madrid away from home, and it will be a crucial game to determine if they are still in that conversation or not. Of course, it depends a lot on the result between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid in the Camp Nou. Of course, that is going to be such a massive weekend in La Liga. In the Premier League, of course, Wolverhampton only managed a 1-1 draw against West Bromwich Albion, of course, or should I say, West Bromwich held them to a draw, of course. Fabio Silva made it 1-0 for Wolverhampton in the 45th minute later on in the first half, before Bayern made it 1-1 for West Bromwich Albion. Of course, this result, as much as it doesn't help Wolves, I think it doesn't give anything new to West Brom, who I think pretty much they're going to be confirmed to be relegated in the next week maybe or so. 10 points behind Newcastle, the closest team outside of the relegation zone, and Burnley as well. So it won't be really a good end of the season for West Brom. They're sure they're going to be relegated. Fulham as well, pretty much sure to be relegated alongside Sheffield United. So the three at the bottom at the moment are the ones who are going to be going down at the end of the season. Speaking of Burnley, they lost to West Ham 2-1 at the Turf Moor. Of course, they took the lead, actually, thanks to Chris Wood in the 19th minute from a penalty spot. A pretty soft penalty, I would say. I really don't understand how these penalties are given in the Premier League or in any other competition, but they get given. But Mikel Antonio answered in a pretty great fashion, a brace for him inside half an hour mark. 2 goals with Mikel Antonio giving West Ham the lead and the win eventually. They could have scored more, really, and they probably should have in the second half, but they didn't. 2-1 it ended for West Ham United, and they keep their quest for the top 4 spots alive and well. Of course, they are 3 points behind Chelsea, and of course, with Chelsea focusing on a Champions League semi-final, a potential final if they qualify, a potential, they can be, of course, they qualified already to the FA Cup final, so they have this on their plate, they have that on their plate, so it will be quite the extravaganza for Chelsea to focus on in the end of the season. In the Bundesliga, and Hertha Berlin played the first of the 3 matches that they have in hand. Of course, they drawn against Mainz 1-1. away from home. Lucas Toussaint, beautiful finish, by the way, opened the scoring for Hertha Berlin in the 36th minute. But before the halftime mark, Philippe Mounet equalised from a beautiful strike, also outside of the box for Mainz, making it 1-1. And Hertha Berlin do not go out of the relegation zone. Of course, at the moment they still have 2 games to play, really, so they still pretty good about their situation. Still have Schalke to play as well, and they still have Freiburg to play. They play the first of those on Thursday, of course, against Schalke. And finishing off in the Serie A, Torino defeated Parma in a pure relegation scrap. 1-0, of course, the only goal for Torino coming in from Mergim Vojvoda in the 63rd minute, giving Torino a crucial win to, I think, to keep themselves hoping, of course, that they will stay in Serie A. Parma certainly secured in the fact they're going to be relegated, but alongside Crotone, so it's going to be all about the 3rd relegation place and who's going to be the unlucky team that is going to get that spot in Serie A. Champions League preview time now, and it is time to talk about the second leg of the semi-final of the Champions League. On Tuesday today, it is Manchester City versus Paris Saint-Germain, and I think the first point that we should talk about and we should start with this game is Kylian Mbappe's fitness. Of course, it is a big question, I think, ahead of this game. Even if he's playing, probably most expect to be at not at 100%, it's going to be like 80-70% maybe of his fitness, which is still good for PSG, but it won't work on him on a personal level. Idrissa Gueye, of course, is going to be out of this game suspension. Juan Bernat is a long-time injury. Colin Dagba is doubtful for this one as well. So you'd expect probably the same lineup that played last week, of course, in the game at the Parc des Princes, but without Idrissa Gueye. Maybe Danilo Pereira is going to be starting ahead of Idrissa Gueye, or in the place of Idrissa Gueye, who is suspended. But you definitely think maybe Ander Herrera could give a better depth into the midfield with Leandro Paredes. They're both good at pressing, really, and they might really help in terms of getting the ball or retrieving the ball in the midfield and starting the attacks for PSG. As far as Man City are concerned, they enjoyed a good 2-0 victory against Crystal Palace in the Premier League on the weekend. They don't have a lot of problems really at the moment, as it seems, rotating the squad pretty well and managing their games at the minimum of effort, really. They're not exhausting themselves. Again, when you talk about the likes of Aguero, Raheem Sterling and Ferran Torres being second string players, you really know how good the squad is of Man City, how deep it is, and how Guardiola really convinced his players that they're going to be rotated, that they will be part of that rotation, and they're all important in the squad. They all have the same importance. Realistically speaking, of course, this is going to be, I think, if it is more of the same game that we saw in the Parc des Princes, probably I don't fancy PSG doing something. Because one of the most important aspects of the first game was the fact that PSG were not efficient. Let's be fair. They scored a goal, but they were not efficient. They missed loads of chances in the first half. They could have scored. They could have made it more comfortable for them, and they could have made it more uncomfortable for Man City. Because the difference is, as I mentioned that in the preview last week, is this is a different situation for them. Or in the review last week, this is a different situation for PSG, where they are chasing the game rather than, being the ones in control, and really the opponents are chasing the game. And that helped them against Barcelona, although they almost lost it. Helped them against Bayern Munich and almost lost it, and they were pretty much closer to losing that than against Barcelona. But this time is different. This time we will see PSG on the hunt. We will see how PSG are going to be trying to score an early goal, maybe try to sting Man City. Are they going to be going to possess the ball? Are they going to be changing their system to their style, their sort of method, the way they're going to be playing against Man City? Are they going to go even higher than they usually do, which is, I think, a huge risk. I mean, it doesn't need a genius to tell you that it's a risk playing so high against a side like City, who know how to move even when the spaces are tightened. So imagine how they're going to be doing when the spaces are open for them. And of course, with no striker, they don't have a focal point that you can really congest. So they don't have a focal point that you can really focus on. So they're going to be all dynamic, all moving across the pitch and in the middle. So you not really be able to get a hold of them. And definitely it's interesting. I mean, it's intriguing really, because if per se Man City lost the first game at Parc des Princes, it would have been different, because obviously it would have been the same for PSG. It would have been trying to control the game, try to, defend really well, tighten the spaces, and do not allow Man City to get the ball higher up the pitch, and then try to sting them on the counter, using the speed of Mbappe and using the speed of Neymar and using Angel Di Maria's good range of passing as well as his technique, Marco Verratti's good vision in the middle, and also Leandro Paredes' good pressing and relying on him to build the attacks from the back. As for Man City, I mean, the first half of the first game was pretty awful for them by their standards, and despite the fact that they employed probably the best lineup that they could, and obviously played with their first team, they still felt that the first half, I mean, they were lost in the first half, to be fair. They were lost in the terms of not knowing what they do exactly. Will they play high, leave the possession to PSG, or they get the ball themselves and just, dominate it and just control it to prevent PSG from having it in the first place to build their attacks? They failed to do both, I would say, and they ended up conceding a goal from a, defensive mistake that is really unlike Man City as of late, or at least the second half of the season, that is, with Guardiola and his pragmatic approach that is more focused on defending and more focused on tightening the spaces in the back. So, for me, it's going to be all about how Guardiola manages his game. PSG, I think, are out of it. Not out of it in terms of not qualifying, but I think out of the discussion that how they're going to be playing, or we could not ask questions about how they're going to be playing, because clearly they're going to be looking to score early and maybe defend that goal and then revert to the normal, sitting in the back and defending and then playing on the counter. For Man City, it's all about, will they go for the kill early? Will they possess the ball, dominate, have a strong 30, maybe a half an hour, maybe a half time full of strength, and then they score a goal and they defend, and then they let PSG control the game, which we know they can't really. They can't be a good controlling team, let's be fair about it. So definitely it's all about how Guardiola is going to be using his side, is going to be focusing on the game. And please, Guardiola, please don't overthink it. Like, it's going down to the wire. Man City feel like closer to ever to the Champions League final, and you just cannot let it slip and overthink it at the wrong time. That just shouldn't happen. That just shouldn't be the case anymore, and this just can't happen now when Manchester City need you the most. So again, Man City were comfortable in the second half of the first game. If they continue in the same way, I'm pretty sure that PSG do not stand a chance, really. And again, it's all about if Mbappe is fine or not. Because if Mbappe is fit and 100% fit, he's going to be good to go and he's going to be very useful to the team. And probably they're going to be relying on their normal system of defending on the counter. And if he's not, it will be a different situation. Icardi may start, Moise Kean may start, and those two, I think Moise Kean may be the better of the two because he played already and he has a sort of a good record at least this season. As for Icardi, he spent a lot of time on the shelf injured. He doesn't have exactly the greatest fitness in the world. And definitely, it hasn't been effective enough to justify him starting or being a sub in this one anyway. He was a sub in the first game, but definitely a late sub. You can understand why. Again, this game is going to go down to how both managers are going to be taking it, and in particular Guardiola, who's in the driving seat, figuratively, at least, of the game. So surely, it has to be a great performance from him, it has to be a great performance from his players in order to just keep PSG at bay at the amount of chances that they will have, whatever small, whatever big they are. And for Man City, controlling the game, we will see if PSG are going to go for it, will play higher up the pitch, or they will just regress themselves in the back and just look to play on the counter and look to take advantage of maybe some frailties that they will have, albeit small frailties. They're not exactly, wide open in terms of defending, but definitely there's some issues that they can work on, PSG, to try and take advantage of in the game. My prediction, I think, is going to be Man City, and it's going to be pretty tight as well, just like the first one was. I think it's going to be pretty tight. The game is going to be pretty narrow, and definitely I can see Man City going through. They will finish the job, and they will get to the final. Maybe the scoreline will be... I think it's going to be the same scoreline, maybe the first game, 2-1 or maybe 2-0 for Man City. That's my prediction for the game. From the Champions League, speaking of course of the Champions League, a Champions League winner, Robert Lewandowski, is rumoured that he's going to be leaving Bayern in the summer. At least that is what the reports are suggesting. In Germany, and Penny Zahavi, his agent, of course, is trying to almost manipulate people into thinking that he's actually leaving. But definitely, let's just talk about it from a normal perspective here of Lewandowski. Lewandowski's contract is up for extension. Of course, his contract runs until 2023, but of course, could leave Bavaria in the summer of 2022 for a high transfer fee. Definitely, might be looking to leave, or at least his agent would be looking for him to leave in order to get some good commission on him, definitely. With David Alaba, of course, agreeing to join Real Madrid. Certainly Lewandowski is going to be a good target of transfer for any team of the biggest teams in Europe. I would say the likes of Chelsea, Man City, PSG, Real Madrid as well, who were obviously interested in him back in the day, but definitely with Cristiano Ronaldo and Benzema being in the club, Florentino Perez soured on the idea, and it was a real possibility a couple of years ago as well, at 2017, 2018, where Lewandowski seemed to have his worst period at Bayern Munich. He didn't exactly have a drought at Bayern Munich, but definitely had a period where he felt like he was not giving 100%, and he probably his mind wasn't in the game. But I think the only reason that will let Lewandowski leave is to look out for more challenges and more trophies to win. But I think he won everything there is there to win with Bayern. The Champions League eluded him for years, and he won it last season. So it's not going to be exactly something that will, sort of itch him to leave Bayern Munich for. But still, this scenario could be really, really interesting, because it suggests that there is a possibility for Bayern Munich to sign Erling Haaland somehow if Lewandowski leaves, because that will open, of course, a space for a striker in Bayern Munich. Again, this is all imaginary, and definitely with the minds that Penny Zahavi, Lewandowski's agent, is, and Mino Raiola, Haaland's agent, are, I think would definitely look to have the best deals for both those players. But for Penny Zahavi, I think it's more of a leverage ploy, more of a sort of, a trick to kind of put his player on the map in the summer and give him a market, even an artificial one. Albeit Lewandowski is someone who any team, I would say, would be happy to get. But at 32 years of age, I don't really see how how this is going to be a convincing idea for any of those teams. And there's a lot of teams who are in need of striker, but certainly they would look for a striker who would be a good future for the next 5 or 10 years, maybe. Even if he's going to leave another day, at least they would guarantee someone who could be either on the ascension or at his absolute prime. And listen, I'm not saying Lewandowski is past his prime, because obviously he is not, and he's still scoring goals aplenty. But surely they will need someone who is young. They will need someone in his 20s, maybe. And I think Erling Haaland fits the bill, and that's why all of the big teams in Europe are really battling over his signature. Mino Raiola's mind, his agent, is obviously in Barcelona, and Real Madrid, his mind is in Barcelona and Real Madrid. That is where he wants him. For Lewandowski, it's going to be, if he's announced and if he's available on the market, it will be maybe Chelsea, Man City, something like PSG, if they're interested in a striker. But definitely, it's all about plans for 2022, not for now. So, I'm not seeing too much of a fire here behind the smoke of these rumours. It will be a different situation maybe in 2022. His contract expires in 2023, so there's really no reason to be rushing about that. I don't think that it's going to be a money reason, really. He's paid around 20 million euros per year as salary at Bayern, and definitely that's more than convincing. I would say only at PSG or Man City, where he would guaranteed to sort of being paid more than that. Obviously, Pini Zahavi, he's a mastermind, just like Mino Raiola. They're both masterminds, they're both great manipulators. But I think Uli Hoeneß called him once a greedy piranha, and he also represents David Alaba, so you can understand the worries that the Bayern board would have that Pini Zahavi would convince Lewandowski of leaving Bayern at the moment. Although it seems like a laughable scenario here to see someone like Robert Lewandowski, who achieved everything there is to achieve there with Bayern, leaving the club for another, side. It seems like an unbelievable thing to do now after winning the Champions League and after, winning a sextuple with Bayern. I mean, it was pretty plausible. Again, a couple of years ago, it was pretty plausible. Real Madrid were on the hunt, particularly after Cristiano left. It looked like maybe they were looking for him as a replacement striker. But definitely, again, with Benzema stepping up to the plate, you don't really see any option where Lewandowski would have left Real Madrid, left Bayern for Real Madrid and became a first teamer, even with his incredible goal-scoring tally and records. So again, maybe by next season, maybe by next summer, it will be a different situation. But of course, we will see. I really believe that he will stay. Maybe he will extend his contract really for a couple of years more as well. I want him to retire at Bayern. I want to see him retire at Bayern. He's a complete legend really at the club, and obviously the peak of his career is going to be remembered to be at Bayern. He did enough at Dortmund as well, but definitely the years that he had at Bayern were absolute gold. And of course, again, he achieved everything there is to achieve. His breaking records in the Bundesliga is pretty close to smashing the Gerd Müller record. Hopefully he would do that, but obviously with the injuries that he has, it might be really hard. Again, leaving Bayern, I mean, I don't see it as a realistic option for him. Even, I don't see him being more successful than he is at Bayern. But definitely, as far as transfer market ploy go, it's going to be a big one to try and put someone like Lewandowski with all these achievements and goal-scoring tally and his skills and technique up for the market in the summer to try and test the waters of the market, how they're going to be reacting to someone like him being available as a striking option. We'll see how this develops over the course of the season, maybe next one. And of course, we'll be there for the updates. That's it for me for this episode. I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. Follow us on social media, PSP on Twitter, PitchSetPod on Instagram, and until tomorrow's episode, you will see me soon. Goodbye.